All right, returning to this. So far, I've cleaned up 3 layers out of 5, and I've warped them and transformed them. I've made sure always that my image size is the minimum size or larger, 8 by 10 inches by 300 pixels per inch. It's a real shame to do a lot of work and then not have something that's high enough quality. So now I go to my most challenging layer because I have to get black line art from this color, watercolor, children's book cover. So what do? Well, I've already rasterized it. Now what I want to do, instead of using the magic wand and trying to select individual colors like that would take forever and it'll be really messy. What I want to do is go to Image, Adjustments, Levels right away. And you can see, unlike the other histograms, this has a lot more in the middle than it has at the sides. And that's because it's got so many things that aren't black and white in it. So what I need to do is squeeze that histogram to really try to emphasize the black lines. And I can do that by kind of zooming in. Because I know there are black lines in there, I just need to make them stronger to turn it into line art. All right, now I say OK. And instead of selecting the white, or selecting the yellow, or selecting the red, or selecting the blue and deleting those, I'm going to select the black with the magic wand. When I select the black with the magic wand, I'm going to widen that tolerance a little bit so it's a little bit thicker to 32. Select it again. Now, I'm going to do something that's called select the inverse. So a lot of this is just kind of creative problem solving. So I go to select and then I say invert the selection, which means select everything that is the opposite of what I just selected. So what is everything that's the opposite of the black lines? All the colors, all the white. So I say inverse, it's going to look exactly the same, but now everything outside the black lines is selected. So when I hit delete, it will get rid of everything except that black line art. Now, is this black line art particularly clean? No, it's not, right? It looks pretty grungy. And I can use my lasso. Whoops, let's deselect, Command D. I can use my lasso to get rid of text, because text can really be distracting in this project. And then I can use my tablet, if I want, with my lasso and kind of carve some shapes to erase, hit delete, especially on these edges that are cropped. That's a pet peeve of mine. I don't like arbitrarily cropped edges. Instead, I want to turn them into shapes, right? And now, maybe I do Option Command T or Edit Free Transform to get my transform box, and now I can play with this element. It's very different than the color cover, and if I right-click inside it and warp, that's why I like to use my tablet and my mouse at the same time. So I don't have to worry about right-clicking with my tablet, which can be tricky. You have to use the buttons and things, and I just want to be able to improvise here. So now I've got that layer. Now I've got 4 layers. And I can already see I have these 4 layers. I can move to different layers within them, like that big head that's very symmetrical. And I can just say, you know what? I think I want to get rid of this part of the head in that layer. So what I did is I just drew a lasso. You can kind of see it. And I can hit delete, but it will only affect the layer that I've selected, which happens to be this layer. So if I hit delete, it gets rid of it because I like how that works for the overall composition. And if I want to get rid of the music notes, no, it's still going to be this head. Sorry, over the head of Dizzy Gillespie here. I can do that because it will only affect the layer that you have selected. Okay, my final layer, my background layer. Scroll down to it to hit Command D to deselect. Turn off these others. And all I have to do to meet the requirements is clean this one up. Go to Image, Adjustments, Levels. It already looks pretty clean. The whites are pretty strong. The blacks are pretty strong. But I can clean it up by squeezing them together a little bit. Then it's already rasterized. There's no black box. Click on the white with contiguous unchecked with the magic wand. Delete all the white. And now I can do Option Command T. And I'm just going to go right to warping. And I'll rotate it first. Turn it upside down. And then warp. And this time I'm going to warp it while I see my other layers. So Option Command T. It will only affect the layer I have selected. Right click inside, warp it. Now I want to push those shapes to the other side of the music notes. Right, like that. And maybe up a little bit here as well. Get that horn there. Good. All right. So, in order to see this a little bit more clearly, I'm going to click on the URL and zoom out to shrink my tools so I can zoom in a little bit with Command 0 on my image. I'm going to fit everything on the screen a little. And it's a good time to hit Command S and save, because I'm almost done. Now, because I transformed it, there are some whites in this layer, in the background layer. I need to select and delete. And now I've met the requirements, though I'm not loving it yet. So what are the requirements? 5 or more layers of black line art arranged and composed into an original composition. So I think I can do better on the original composition part, because some of these are pretty recognizable. And then there's things that are hanging off the edge I don't like. So now I'm going to start erasing. And I'm just going to do simple erasing with my lasso tool. I'm just going to draw shapes, connect them, and then delete from different layers. Now, in order to see it a little bit more clearly, I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to make a white piece of paper on the bottom. I do that by clicking in the layer window at the bottom right-hand corner next to the trash can, but don't click the trash can or it will delete your layer. So I call it a post-it note. Looks like a post-it note. That creates a new layer. You can also go to Layer, New Layer, but this is faster. And then in that new layer, I'm going to say Edit, and we're going to do this a lot in the class, and Fill. And the reason we do Edit, Fill is because it will give us absolute certainty that we are having pure white fill that layer. If you have anything other than pure white, even like 1% off-white, when you print it, it prints that gray. And you don't want it to print. When it's white, you want it to leave the white paper. So white, normal, 100% opacity, fill that in. Now I'm going to move that layer behind all my other layers. So even though my layers are only black pixels, now I see the white behind it, so I can get a sense of how it will print, and that gives me a sense of what I want to delete. So for instance, I want to delete this stuff right there, but I need to know what layer it comes from, so I can use the eyeballs to see and then delete. I want to delete these words right here. Now you got to find out what layer it comes from, so I got to use the eyeballs and then delete. Now here's a really fun game we can play. If I want to delete something within this layer, the one that's so recognizable, what I can do is use the magic wand, but instead of having contiguous unchecked, I'm going to have contiguous checked. So now it's only going to select lines that are touching. So if I click on the black lines that are touching a lot of other black lines and delete, it will get rid of all of those. Right? Or if I click inside the empty space and hold down Shift to do multiple selections of lines that are contained, like all the buttons on this suit. Oh, that one's open. Or the space inside that trumpet. What I'm doing is or his collar, or his glasses. I'm also going to select the black lines in the glasses. Kind of get rid of his eyes. Now if I hit delete, it will just clear where the black lines are. But this is the cool thing. I can move that selection to other layers and then delete it from other layers. So watch what happens as I do that. As I turn on other layers and select them, I can erase those same small shapes out of each of them to ensure that when they're all on, there is just white space in his buttons and in his glasses. And if I need to clean it up a little bit more, I can always use my lasso. There's like little gray debris. But we're not going for perfection here. We're just learning the basics of compositing. What we are not doing is painting with white, right? We're just removing black pixels. And moving around a lot. All right, what if I want to get rid of his hand? Or better yet, what if I want to get rid of this chunky black line that's on top of his hand? Then I have to find the right layer and delete the selection from that layer. All right, so now I'm going to go through and just hack away at it. I'm going to draw some random shapes, kind of delete away. Remember, I can delete from multiple layers all at once. Until I like kind of how it all comes together. And then I'm going to delete quite a few of these music notes and have them kind of spill out from some of the edges until it feels dynamic and jazzy and interesting to me. This is how I make it my own composition. Now, of course, the more time you spend, the smarter your choices can be, the more practice you'll get at these skills. But let's say that's my finished one. Now, I need to save it. So I'm going to say File, Save, or Command S. That will save the project where I opened it from, which is right here. When you open it in PSD, in a Photopea as a PSD, it will get rid of your dot, your color dot, each time you resave it. So that kind of reminds you, oh, the yellow dot went away, so this must be the latest version. And sure enough, it is. If you ever want to check, you can right-click, say Get Info, and it will tell you when you last saved it. And it was at 10:29, and that was just right now. So I've saved it. Good. Now I need to save it in a way that's not a PSD, in a way that I can put up to Canvas. So what I do is I say File, Export as a JPEG. Go ahead and save with the defaults. Where is it going to save to? It's going to save to the Downloads folder because this is an online program. And so it puts it right there. And it will save it with the same file name, but as a different digital format. So instead of a PSD, now it's a .jpeg. I'm going to mark that as orange. And that's what I can put into the class. So I scroll down. I hit reply at the end of the instructions, and I follow the directions to get credit for the work. So the first thing I put is my name that I want to be called, and then I'm going to drag and drop the JPEG, not the PSD, into Canvas. Only the JPEG can show up. You can attach the PSD, but it will take up all your Canvas memory, and it won't show up for other students. It will just show as an attachment. So if you accidentally attach the JPEG, delete it and edit your post. Okay, then I'm going to shrink it to fit underneath my name. And there we have it. Now, the other way I could save it is as a PNG. But a PNG supports transparency. So if I want to save it as a PNG, I would turn off the background first. So I get that checkerboard. And then I would say File, Export.